Well, hello. Use it for other than it looks like a little roller. It looks like this. It's called a seam gauge. Right inside there, inside that little slider. This is what every beginner should use until they are sewing so long that now they ball things. I've been doing this a long time, 45 plus years, so I don't use this as much, but I am making a pair of shorts for my sweet husband because apparently I cook too good and he's gained some weight and he has centimeters. And see, I'll just show you that. The lighting in here is not, there we go. So this is your gauge. This is what you adjust when you are trying to make a casing to put elastic in, elastic waist, pair of shorts or whatever. So I have my hubby short I'm making out here. And what I've done, and what is really a good thing to do when you're making something with an elastic waist, these could be elastic or they could be drawstring. It's versatile. It's kind of pattern where you can turn it into drawstring if you need to and you don't want to use elastic. So I turned down the casing width, and when I turned it down, I gave it a good press. But the way you use your seam gauge is when you turn your fabric down, you put your little blue slider to where you want it to be, how far you want to turn this down. So let's say this was 1.5 inches. And that little blue slider stops at 1.5 inches from the edge. Now you're probably wondering what these little holes are for. That is so that you can mark with a marking pen or pencil or fabric that washes out, that's water soluble. If you need to just mark dots, if you're, or you're creating your own patterns and you're doing some special, marking, you can use it for that. But the main purpose of this is so that you keep whatever you've turned down consistent all the way around the whole garment. So you turn it down and you adjust the fabric as you need. Give it a good press. Then you're going to slide it down and then make sure that it's still within that space. So here's the top edge, and the bottom here is right above that blue slider. And I'm going to do that all the way around these. Now, the other thing this is great for, for you that all that are beginners, is seams. Sometimes you have a sewing machine, and I have this Brother machine right here, that on the needle plate, the 3/8, 5/8, 6, 7/8, notches engraved into the metal. It has metric. It has centimeters. So it has 20 centimeters, 50 centimeters, and so on. So if you're new and you get your machine and you don't realize that, and you're like, okay, which one is 5/8? Take your seam gauge, go to your machine, put this little blue slider where the needle is in your machine, in your sewing machine, put it in there, and then slide this until it comes to 5/8. And like on this particular machine, 5/8. 5/8 is 15 centimeters. This has 10 centimeters, 20, 10, 20, and 30, actually. 10, 20, and 30. And then there's one in between. So there's like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So you're not sure which of those centimeters that are marked on your sewing machine represent 5/8, because your generic seam allowance is 5/8 for size seams and things of that nature. Then you want to make sure, get out your seam gauge, set it to 5/8. Where this blue slider, I don't know if they're all blue, but the slider has a little hole in it. You can actually even put the needle from your machine down in that little hole and then slide this to where it gets to 5/8, and where it ends on this side on the needle plate, number that is on there, that's your 5/8, and then you can put a sticker on there, or you can take a Sharpie marker and write 5/8 so you don't forget. It's like, was it 15 that was 5/8 or was it 20? You know. So, and not only that, like I said, it has the centimeters on the bottom. So that actually tells you 20 on your seam gauge is 5/8. So you don't really have to put this on your machine. You can look at your seam gauge and it will tell you exactly what you need to know. It's a very useful tool. I've bent several of them by accident, but it saves you brain time and trying to figure out, oh gosh, am I making the seam the right way or not? Great for casings like I'm using for my husband's shorts. I could have put this, measured my 1.5 across, drawn a line, but it's easier for me to just turn it down what I think is right and just adjust it a couple inches at a time, pressing it about 2 inches at a time. Men's shorts are really easy to make, and I'm going to do a video on those. All that's left for these guys is the elastic and the hem on the pant legs. Now there's another trick that I'm going to show you real quick with a presser foot. That, you know how you see blue jeans and they have the double stitching? Not every sewing machine has 2 thread spools, posts to put your thread on to be able to use a double needle. And a double needle looks like this. This is a double needle. And I got a couple sets of these for one reason. When you get a set like this, at least from this particular company, I believe it was on Amazon. I love Amazon for sewing supplies, especially needles. They have the greatest prices for them. And it came with 3 different size double needles. One has a 1/4 inch space. Let's see if I can get that up. There you go. There's that one. Then there's one. It's like Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear when it comes to double needles. One's really close. Then there's a medium. And then there's the wider one. So let's see if you all can see. So you can see the 3 different widths. Very close together, a little wider, and this is a 1/4 inch. So it's like 1/8. Is it 1/8? Oh, it's a 16th, 1/8, and 2/8. That's what they are. So depending on what kind of decorative top stitching you want to do, you can use these. But in the case of this Brothers sewing machine that I just refurbished, by the way, and it's working fabulous, if you don't have the dual spool pins, this one doesn't. It has just one. There's a presser foot. And the presser foot is a zigzag foot. And it can be used for zippers, but I found a really great way to use it for doing the same effect of a double needle. This particular zigzag foot it's set up to be able to do zippers or cording, or little small thin cording, not real thick cording. So it has 2 little, I don't know if I can show you how that goes, but there's like 2 little valleys in there. So after and I'll show you what I did with it on these shorts actually. After you've done your side seam or wherever and you want to do this double needle look, but you don't have set up on your machine for double needle, you can still do a double needle top stitch look. And that's how I did these. And hopefully you can see this. You press out your seam nice and smooth. And you press it out so it's good and crisp. Then when you go to stitch your fake double stitching, on the foot where the first ridge is, you line it up with the seam. So you're going to line it up and you're going to go down that side. Then you're going to flip this around and do the exact same thing on the opposite side and move it over to the next cutout under here. And it creates a perfect double top stitch because you're paying attention and making sure that the seam is in that groove the whole time you're stitching all the way down. You can't go wrong. As long as you stay within that groove when you're stitching right down, you're going to get this beautiful top stitch design. I'm trying to make it so that y'all can see this. And there we go. You can see the stitches on either side of the seam. And I used a little lighter thread because that's, it's going to be, an accent kind of thread. And so when I get finished with this pair of shorts for my husband, he's going to have a nice pair of shorts. They'll be elastic waist. They'll fit him. And I will have a video on how to make these really nice shorts. I mean, I'm actually going to show you how to make basketball shorts out of satin. Some slidey stuff. That's what satin does. It slides around. But if you're making clothing with a cotton fabric like this, or it's cotton woven, polycotton, my suggestion is to use your pinking shears to cut it out. That way you don't have to worry about fraying. Not everyone has a serger. I have one that's needing some attention, and I didn't want to change color threads. So on your sewing machine, there is a stitch, and I'm going to draw it for you. And it's what you can use. I don't know what the real term for the stitch is called. I just know what I always call it. I called it a ladder stitch because it kind of looks like a ladder. And it's on every single machine that I've noticed. It's not just a 1 or 2 inch or 1 or 2 stitch machine, but you can also do this stitch with a two stitch machine. If your machine is like an old vintage and it only is straight and zigzag, you can still do this stitch. Okay. I call it the ladder stitch. Because it kind of looks like a zigzag ladder on the sewing machine. It kind of looks like this. There you go. You'll see how it has the zigzag stitch in the center and straight stitch on both ends. But when you put your machine on this setting, it does all of that. Now, if you don't have if you only have a 2-stitch sewing machine, what you do is you make one line of this. Okay, you do one row of straight stitches, and then you do another row of straight stitches using the bottom of this foot. Using this foot in particular. I got to figure out what the actual name for this is. So I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. I'll do my research and I'll put it below. So you do 2 rows of straight stitch, evenly spaced. Then you do a zigzag stitch in the middle. Ladder stitch. So it's really almost exactly the same thing. You do this right on the very edge of your fabric so it doesn't fray anymore. It gives it a nice finished look. And not everybody can go out and buy a serger. There are some really great deals online that you can find. One of my favorite places is shopping at Goodwill. You'd be amazed how many people get rid of perfectly fine machines. All they need is a little bit of TLC, cleaning, some oiling or whatever. But so seam gauge, use it. Use it for your casings. You can even use it when you're trying to do your sleeve length. This for hems, hemming a dress. I mean, it'll go up to 6 inches. But if you need to do a hem that's only, or you're doing curtains, you want to make a casing for your curtains for your curtain rod, use this baby. It's an invaluable tool. It's so underrated. I don't think I've seen anybody do a video on the seam gauge. So I'm doing one. So if you're a beginner, this will make you feel like you really got a handle on it because it does half of the work for you. You do the sewing, it does the measuring. All you have to do is put it on there. Don't have a serger, got straight and zigzag stitch, you can basically overcast your own edges with 2 stitches, straight that particular stitch on your machine. This one down here. If you don't have that stitch on your to dial to on your machine, do 2 straight stitches, zigzag in the middle, and you have done an overcast stitch. Old school way. I love old school. And I'm making these little headbands now. Then the knot thing is kind of like magic. But if you've enjoyed this video on this underrated tool, this lovely seam gauge, things that it can help you do, pant leg, hemming, seams, casings, there's a lot of things this little piece of material and this little tool, this little 6-inch tool is very good for. And use it. And you're going to fall in love with this little guy. And then eventually you'll get to a point where like, oh, I know how to turn up 1.5 inches. I don't need my seam gauge. But you can keep this to check yourself. You know what they say? They say, measure twice, cut once. So if you've liked this video, let me know. Give me a comment or two what you thought, if you'd like to see other ones like it. And as I'm going through and doing these little projects for myself and my shop and for my husband making him some new shorts, I'm discovering things that I haven't covered that are very cool. If you agree, let me know and come back again, because I'm back in the sewing room and I am sewing up a storm, making turban hats and headbands, men's clothes, kids' clothes. You want to see kids' clothes? Hey, I'll make some. Just let me know, because I don't know what you want to see unless you let me know, guys. And then always, please, just subscribe so you'll get to see the newest videos as they come out. God bless.